allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we want to do introductions, or are we all pretty much? Let's go ahead and go around the table. Jeff Hewitt, Town of Cherville, here for Councilman Schmidt, who's the committee chair.
Jim Russell, State Representative.
Gary Watts, County of St. John.
Tony Kizikevich, Chicago, South Shore, South Bend, Freight River.
I'm Kevin Polite. I work for NERC and I'm also recording this meeting.
George Toppel, Union Township Trustee.
Mark O'Dell, Chesterton Town Engineer, on behalf of Town Council Member Jim Thun.
Peter Kimball, nursing staff.
Nursing staff.
And Scott Weber, NERC staff.
Okay, public comment on agenda items.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we asked the Representative Pressel to chair because he was technically our vice chair.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry if you didn't get them.
I'm sorry, I did
You're
that.
absolutely fine if you want to continue.
It's your privilege. I apologize for.
You're fine. You're absolutely fine. If you're prepped for it, go for it. I'll just sit here.
Ready as I can be. So, thank you.
Carry on.
Public comment on agenda items.
The agenda.
Sure.
We have not been made aware of any member at this time that wishes to make a public comment.
Minutes of May 4th.
Make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 22-17, establishing congestion mitigation, air quality, traffic congestion, performance target measures. Scott.
Thank you. So on pages 3 to 5 of your agenda packets, you'll see resolution 22-17, which is a resolution establishing congestion mitigation, air quality, or CMAQ, traffic congestion performance measure targets. These targets are actually required every 4 years. That it's required that the 4 entities in the Chicago urbanized area that do planning, that's NERC, us, that's the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, that's the Illinois Department of Transportation, or IDOT, as well as INDOT. We collectively have to agree on performance measure targets related to traffic congestion, and there are 2 measures that relate to traffic congestion. There are the percent of non-single occupancy vehicle travel in the entire Chicago urbanized area, so that's basically getting to work by any mode other than driving alone. So that's walking, biking, transit, carpooling, and also telecommuting, working from home. So we set a target for that, for a 2-year target as well as a 4-year target. And so what the 4 agencies collectively have agreed to at the staff level back in March through June through various collaboration, is that we agreed that that measure, as you can see on the table on page 5 in the amended text column, is 32.4% by 2023 is our 2-year target, and our 4-year target is 32.6% that would be getting to work by a non-single occupancy mode by 2025. And that's required by federal regulations to be a unified target for the entire Chicago urbanized area. So it's 90+% on the Illinois side, and only probably about 7 or 8% on the Indiana side, for example. But recently, since 2020, the number of work from home has been much higher than it was before that. You know, it's definitely gone down some in the last year. But that actually gets us toward our target pretty well, just along that trend. So that's the target that we've agreed on for the 2-year and 4-year targets for that measure. The other measure is the peak hours of excessive delay per capita in the Chicago urbanized area. And the targets that the staff level between our 4 agencies has agreed to for the 2-year target is 15.6 peak hours of excessive delay per capita on the national highway system by 2023, and 15.9 peak hours of excessive delay per capita in the Chicago urbanized area by the year 2025. So that's the 4-year target. So again, congestion actually, we project to go up. The target is slightly more congestion. And this is just broadly speaking, as the economy rebounds, there just tends to be more congestion. You just see around the country. And not that congestion isn't, obviously we try to eliminate and reduce congestion, but there is some kind of inevitability about when the economy rebounds, you're just going to see more people driving. So I think that it's a pretty modest increase by staff's assessment. So resolution 2217 seeks to make a recommendation to the technical planning committee, which will meet next Tuesday, August 30th, about adopting these targets for the entire Chicago urbanized area. And just keep in mind that we have 3 other agencies that are also making the same exact targets at their agency levels as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
So how do you control the target? How do you get to your target?
So the federal regulations are pretty rigid in terms of like what the measures are that we have to look at. So like those 2 that I mentioned, there's the percent non-single occupancy vehicle travel to work, and there's also the peak hours of excessive delay, which is like really bad traffic congestion delay on the major highways in our urbanized area. So we kind of look at the data for those 2 measures and track them over time, and then set targets based on a trend line. So I don't show like all the work that we went through at the staff level in front of this committee, but we've been looking at like a trend line of those measures, and we try to set reasonable targets based on how we're actually performing. As you can imagine, there is a lot of uncertainty in getting the most recent data, especially when it comes to the trends from like working from home, since COVID pandemic, for example, has definitely affected the percent non-single occupancy vehicle target. By the same token, like transit ridership has been down in the Chicago urbanized areas, so that doesn't help us. But so it's we're trying to figure out where we're headed with those trends.
So I guess let me rephrase. So you see the trend, and we can see it through the data. But how do you control?
How do we control?
If it goes way over your target, how are you going to reduce it?
Well, there's no like silver bullet solution necessarily to probably change the trajectory. I mean, we can do as an agency at NERC, we control some of the funding for transportation, so we can redirect or reprioritize some of the project types that we would choose to fund to some extent toward projects that would address these trends. But then we'd have to weigh that against all of our other planning priorities as well. I think the bottom line is that the economy as a whole probably controls the targets a lot more than what we might be able to do just at some governmental level, I think.
So you said 3 other agencies they've accepted these numbers? I mean, are these targets widely accepted, or is there some debate on that? Or
So as far as the at the staff level, I know the Indiana Department of Transportation is already like prepared to prepare these numbers. They've taken them through their internal agency review. They haven't formally uploaded them to the federal highway site where they'll be kind of set in stone, but like they certainly gain acceptance there. And the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning has not introduced these targets yet. Technically, they've been circulating through public comment on their updated plan, but they're planning by October 15th when they adopt that plan to formally have that approval process take place. So we're a little bit ahead of the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning in that sense. However, the public has technically seen these, even if they might not have zoomed in on them because they've been in the appendices of that plan that's been circulating over the summer, but they haven't received any pushback from them, so to speak.
That question would be, has NDOT done any planning or have any plans to do any HOV lanes on our interstates?
You might be aware of there's a planning and environmental linkages or PEL study on the Gorham Expressway for the 8094 Flex Road project, which is not exactly HOV lanes, but it's kind of similar. It's a managed inside shoulder during certain hours of the day that they've been looking at doing from I-65 to the state line, actually, to where Illinois, what is that, where 94 takes off on the Illinois side. So it's about a 15-mile segment that they've been looking at.
That goes a long way toward educating the public as well, when they see that.
I think it's been suggested that they'll be studying this 30 as well with PELs.
Any other comment? I'll entertain a motion on resolution 22-17.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Staff updates. Scott, on safety update.
So I will actually I'll presentation first, but my colleague Peter Kimball will talk about the safety updates.
Great. Yep, so we have another quarterly crash update here that I'll go through. Again, this will be on the website, of course, afterwards, so you can go ahead and look at it there. Here's just kind of an overall map. You can kind of see the major corridors where most of our collisions are happening. So I can go to the next slide here. So just overall, this is Lakeport and LaPorte total, 6,311 crashes, collisions, 1,042 of those were injuries, and there were 26 fatalities this past quarter. I'll go through the three counties individually here, try to make this as entertaining as possible, I guess. So we can kind of see the trend in collisions is going down by county overall. I think this is kind of interesting seeing as, the state reports say collisions are going up. If you look at property damage only, we are down to 3,620 for this last quarter in Lake County. Injuries went back up to 707. Fatalities started going back up. We're at 17 this time. Injury collisions, 707. Total injuries, 930. Incapacitating injury, as follows collision is 162. Incapacitating injuries total is 186. Possible injuries, 96. Possible injuries reported, 128. 17 fatalities and 19 reported after that. Moving on to LaPorte County, we also see a drop in total collisions to 809. Property damage collisions were 666. Injury collisions are 139. That's went up slightly. Fatalities were at 4 again. Injury collisions went up to 139. Total injuries 192, going from 177. Incapacitating injuries 32. Incapacitating injuries total reported 39. Possible injuries 19. Possible injuries reported 22. And then our fatalities were the same at 4 and 4 from the last quarter. Finally, Porter County. This one, we also went down slightly in total collisions, down from 1,164 to 1,158. Property damage collisions went down from 995 to 957. Injury collisions went up. That's from 164 to 196. Fatality collisions were at 5 again. It was interesting to see all the counties had, very the same or very small shift in fatalities, so there's no big jumps there. And then these three slides, this is just the same detail by county throw in there. Finally, our last fact here, looking at how these crashes are interacting with what we know about our roads here. 32.4% of these crashes were within 50 feet of an intersection. 14.5% were on our level of service segments that were rated F. 18.6% were on our level of service segments rated E, and 16.5% of these were on our level of service segments rated D. So 49.6% of all of these collisions happened on poor performing, or what are classified as poor performing segments from the model. And then 40.9% of these crashes were located in our environmental justice areas. So that's the information there. A lot to read through, but again, if there's anything else you want to see in these reports in the future, let me know. Or, if you're looking into any of the data or need help finding this data, let me know as well.
Other questions? Okay, let's move on to travel time reliability.
Okay, so the second quarter travel time reliability, truck travel time reliability congestion update. I actually included the bonus month of July just because our automated dashboard pulls the data from July as well, so I'm going to update you from April through July. This is an automated dashboard gathering all of the probe data that's out there. So this is like anonymized cell phone pings from everyone traveling down the roads. Every 5 seconds we get pings. We also get records from truck and vehicle GPS devices and telematics devices. So looking at the travel time reliability trends, it pretty much kind of went down throughout the year so far. In other words, travel is becoming less reliable if you look at January through July on this is the interstate system, for example. So what we see here is that we were really reliable in January, 99.9%. That went all the way down to 79.1% by July. So by July, by the summer season, we saw less reliability. There's probably more construction out there. Basically, vehicles not being able to get to where they want to get to in a very reliable fashion compared to the beginning of the year. And if we actually look at how that breaks down, we can definitely see the problem area here on the interstate. It's pretty much it's really contained to the Gorman Expressway, I-80 94 between the state line and I-65 particularly in the westbound direction was particularly poor performing in this period of time so far this year. As you can see that the eastbound did have some problem areas right near the state line and all the way to around where Klein or Burr Street comes in. But for the most part, the problem was actually on the westbound I-80 94 corridor in the county. When we look at the travel time reliability on the non-interstate national highway systems, these are the major arterial roads that are not the interstates. Again, we see, actually this is much more stable than the interstate system. We did still see a decline throughout the year from 98.9% reliability to 95.3%. But overall, our target is actually only 89.8%, so we still well exceeded our target for the non-interstate national highway system reliability. I did not include a map of how this breaks down because for some reason our dashboard was only pulling, I think it was US 30 and State Road 49, even though there are others that actually went into this data. I did check that, but it wasn't a very exciting map because it was just all green. So I didn't include that. And then for our truck travel time reliability, this is actually kind of interesting. It jumped around a lot. The difference between the way that truck travel time reliability is calculated versus the just general reliability is that the truck travel time reliability looks at the 95th percentile time, so that's like the 5% worst performing travel times divided by the 50th percentile, whereas the regular reliability looks at the 80th percentile divided by the 50th percentile. So that could be why, for example, that the winter months in the truck travel time reliability were poor performing. And also it's important to keep in mind on this metric, higher is actually worse, or is more unreliable. So the least reliable month was June so far this year, but then January and February were also actually not very reliable from a truck standpoint. But again, it's looking at the 95th percentile, so that could just be like maybe there were some weather events in those months that 5% of which were bad enough to register, but maybe looking at only the 80th percentile is still pretty reliable in those winter months. So anyway, you can see that April was the smoothest performing month, and it was actually the only month that would meet the statewide target so far in our region. The target is less than 1.30. So we're close to that in March. We only hit that in April so far. However, we do expect to be a little bit above that 1.30 to still make the statewide target because we've just adopted the statewide target. And our corner of the state performs a little bit more poorly from a reliability standpoint than the whole state in general. So we're still okay, I believe, here. And you can see how the truck travel time reliability breaks down. We see pretty much the same problem areas as the general reliability in the interstates. So looking at mainly the I-80 94 corridor through Lake County, as you can see, was mainly where you see the oranges and some yellow. But we did see a little bit spilling over into Porter County on the westbound 94 area between State Road 249 and the county line as well, was registering as orange for truck travel time reliability. But other than that, it looked like I-65 and the toll road for the most part performed pretty well, as well as I-94 east of State Road 249. So if you have any questions about this data.
How does this compare to years past? I mean, are we?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. I could have included the comparisons to data from past years. I do know that just anecdotally that this was, I believe, the worst performing year since 2017, at least, from on the interstates. I don't think we've had as much road work out there, at least on the 94 corridor, since about 2017. It might even be slightly worse than that. I would have to check, but I know that 2018 through 2021 were better for sure.
Okay, railroad crossing elimination grant opportunity update.
So I can speak to that. I think Charles has been mentioning it at the T-Rock meetings, but there is a discretionary grant available right now. And probably most of you have heard about it by now, but I wanted to mention that applications are due October 4th. And if that's something that a project you're looking for money to get, you can also feel free to use NERC as a resource. Because we have all our previous rail crossing data, and that's something, that we're available to help with as far as grant applications, especially if you need any mapping components or just data about crossings themselves. I want to mention too, because I think there's some questions on eligible projects for that they are accepting projects that are grade separation or closure, including through the use of a bridge, embankment, tunnel, or a combination, track relocation, improvement or installation of protective devices, signals, signs, measured to improve safety related to separation, closure, track relocation projects, or other means to improve the safety if related to mobility of people and goods at highway grade crossings. Another option is there's money available for planning, environmental review, and design. So Thomas had possibly mentioned NERC, because MPOs are allowed to apply as well as locals, applying for a planning grant. That being said, I think we need more feedback. I need more information from him, but also if that's something that, maybe communities would want to look at together, if we want to do, I don't know if we can do regional, but some sort of corridor or something as far as that goes. So there is potential NERC could apply for one, but I guess that would also go into kind of the rest of our funds that are available in staff power. So that being said, if there's, a community looking at one, please contact me for information or help on those grants.
We received word from NDOT that this money can also help with the funding gaps that we've come on a couple of our tracks projects have come in way over budget. So I know Cherville, I believe Hammond as well, is applying for some of this money to help with our funding gap. Cherville and Kennedy, the years is out in 169. Parish. Okay, and an update on the NOVA.
Yeah, so I unfortunately cannot reveal too much at this point because it's still an internal working document in terms of our upcoming NOVA, or Notice of Funding Availability. To solicit for new projects, mainly in fiscal years 2027 and 2028 is what we're looking at soliciting for, because we've pretty much booked out all the projects through 2026. So we will be releasing a NOVA sometime this fall. We were hoping possibly as early as the September 15th commission meeting. Right after that, there'll be an announcement and it'll go live. But it's possible it'll take a little longer than that, depending on some of the internal feedback that we've been getting. But basically, this committee, the Surface Transportation Committee, will be overseeing some of the project types in the NOVA, and specifically the project types that this committee will be evaluating and soliciting for are the intersection safety improvements, pavement rehabilitation and reconstruction, railway highway grade separations, crossings, intersection congestion improvements, bridge replacements, rehabilitations, or reconstructions. Those are the project types in general that this committee will be overseeing. There are some other potentially eligible project types that I didn't mention that would fall under this committee, but for the most part, those are the project types that we've gone through in the past with this committee. So I don't have really more specifics about exactly what it'll look like, but I do know that thanks to all of you that have participated in the continuous improvement working group and provided comments through the process that we've gone through before. We've definitely taken those comments to heart and we'll be trying to improve upon the process this time around. Any questions or discussions?
None. Any other business? Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor, get up and walk out.
Okay. All right. You got it.